All right, guys. It's 7 o'clock Monday evening, January 29th. We're going to do a Visa Live presentation. And before we start the actual presentation, just a note about Visa. You know, we're a nonprofit organization. We've been around for 2 years now, and we're still looking for members out there. So if you're seeing this, I'd like you to consider going to the Visa homepage. It's just join VSSA.org and take a look around on our website. Particularly look at the action plan, kind of see what we've been up to. We've been pretty heavily involved in different fishery management issues. Lately, Menhaden has been occupying a lot of our time. But take a look around our website, and I'd like you to consider joining Visa. It's just $25 a year, and you get full access to everything within Visa. You'll get full access to these presentations, even to be viewing later. You'll have access to that. Plus, we firmly believe that as we go represent your issues in Virginia and all of these fishery management meetings, the more people we have in our organization that are with us, the stronger we are. The more united we become, the more organized we get, the stronger we are. And so when we show up to a meeting, the more numbers we have to our behind us, then we have their attention. When we start getting up to the number of over 1,000 or more, when we show up to a meeting, we've got their attention, because they know that we're not just a small organization, just a handful of people who don't care. No, we care. And what my opinion is, what's going on in our fishery management world really has me irritated. And it just makes me dig in my heels more and want to get more involved, because I'm just tired of these fishery managers believing in their mind, they believe that that we don't care and we're not organized, and they can do whatever they want. They can cut our fish, take away our fish every meeting. They think we don't care. We're going to sit idly by. No, we're not. We're going to fight for our rights to fish recreationally, and that's what we're about. We're going to try to represent your issues. So consider joining Visa, and that'll make us all strong. So I have here, we're going to do our TOG presentation. You guys know that the TOG bite, if you can get out, if the weather cooperates, TOG bite, if you can get on a wreck, it's probably going to be pretty good. And some nice sized TOG on some of these wrecks. So we have Captain Bill here from Playin Hookey Charters. He's been doing well on the fish, sea bass, TOG, mahi, tuna, cobia, you name it. If it swims out there, you'll see Bill out there chasing it when they're out there. So Bill's going to kind of walk us through with the idea of, kind of beginners in mind, and he's going to kind of walk us through how he does TOG fishing. Now, keep in mind, like any other fishery out there, there's not one way to do it. There's 100 ways to do it. And so Bill's going to share with you his way that has proven success for him. That doesn't mean that's the only way. But he has a lot of experience at TOG, and so he's going to go through a presentation, and then as he's kind of done, I'll kind of monitor the chat panel, and if there's a question for him, I'll read it out to him. So you can ask questions live, and he'll answer questions live. When I say live, there's about a 5 or 10 second delay, but it's still pretty live. And so hopefully we can got time to answer your questions. But without further ado, Captain Bill,
thanks a lot, Mike.
Take it away.
Stand up.
You can stand up.
All right, I'm gonna stand up, everybody. Hey, how's everybody doing tonight? My name is Bill Pappas Jr. I'm a local charter boat captain operating out of Rudy Inlet. I'm religiously fish for tautog, and for over 20 years. Most of it you've seen me out there. Over the years I fished with Kevin Selden, Kevin Farley, Skip Filler, Brian Knoll, the Knoll brothers, Kevin Laxon, just some of the guys 20 years ago I fished with and learned a lot of my techniques and skills from, and actually time on the water, years and years. If you've ever seen me out there the last 5 years, it was in a 20-foot Key West with a green boat out on the ocean. And I got to warn you guys, this presentation will tell you alone, TOG fishing is addictive, okay? It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of tactics. It takes a lot of technical stuff. It takes a lot of getting up with people and people communicating. They're going to go. They're going to bail. Positioning your boat. It takes weather. It takes a bunch of different. You got all these different factors. Not even to mention that the bait is super expensive. The crabs aren't cheap. Okay, none of this stuff is cheap. The small crabs, the green crabs, the clams, all that. Getting out there in the cold that time of year, spending lots of money on hooks, lots of money on sinkers, all to catch the tasty fish that we all love. Now that's what the addicting part is the bite. Is the way these things fight pound for pound is what nobody can get over. Because once you've went out there and mastered some of these little techniques, then it becomes a lot more fun. Now don't get me wrong, anybody can have luck and go out there and drop a line over if they're put on the right boat with the right captain, or even just luck of the draw and get themselves a nice fish, because that's what fishing's all about anyway, isn't it, really? All right, well, I'm not the best, and I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm not the greatest, and I'm getting better every day, but I will, and if you will disagree, that's fine. I understand that. You know, that's cool. I've fished in the ocean for, like, you know, tog at least 25 trips a year for the last 5 years, and it's right after the striped bass stopped coming inshore within 3 miles, you know, after the bay closes. This forced more pressure on the togs than ever before. You know, with lots of boats having to go out there with no inshore striper to fish for in January and February, with sea bass being closed. Well, thank God this season in February, sea bass will be open. So while we're doing our trips out there, you'll be able to catch sea bass and tog and not just have to throw the sea bass back. So you'll be able to get a mixed bag and get a lot more fish. Hopefully alleviate some of the pressure on the tog as well. You know, I've organized this pretty good. I got to admit, I'll just give you a little bit, tiny bit of background before I go into this, but I'm going to basically take you from dock before you even leave the house to all the way out into the ocean, and get you all the way there, catching your fish, and getting you coming back with what you want to, hopefully. Let me kill that. All right.
Customer already.
Yeah, right. So here's where I was raised in Hawaii, you know, so I'm real familiar with a lot of fishing. I'm really an ocean lover. I've lived in Virginia a real long time, but here's what I wanted to go over about these togs. When it comes to the seasons, these things migrate, okay? I'll tell you. Now, they don't all move. The bigger ones, thanks to Ken Neal's research and a lot of other taggers that are out there, they've shown that the bigger fish on these ocean wrecks, you know, 20 to 30 miles, stay in the same wreck year after year after year. They've tagged really large fish, and they've been at the same wrecks year after year. Now, the smaller ones, when they're trying to move into other spots where the big dens are, if they're crowded, they're going to move on to another wreck. And as the bay cools, they start to migrate. Now, they'll fluctuate and come back in as the water comes in and out, but eventually these outer wrecks get filled up after the colder months, and it becomes a pattern. Okay, so just another thing I want to throw in a little tip is that, you know, I was saying I'm kind of in tune with nature. When you guys start to see blue jays coming, and you see a lot of blue jays in the trees, it's tautog time. When you see the cardinals start rolling in, it's sea bass time. And when you see the crepe myrtles in the summer start turning pink and start popping, get your flounder rods out, because it's going to be flounder time. It's just how it works, guys. Timed it for years and years, and it's just one of those beautiful things, all right? So here we go. I'm going to go into the plan. First thing is most important is your plan. Before you leave the dock, you're going to make sure that you choose a great wreck. Now, don't just choose any wreck. Choose a bunch of wrecks, okay? Now, how do you choose your wrecks? You're going to go online. You're going to go in an old GPS. You're going to talk to some friends for some numbers. Hopefully, you're not going to have a GPS and poach your buddies without their permission, take their numbers, but you're going to somehow come up with a set of coordinates. Now, more than likely, if you go online, you're going to try to choose a set of coordinates that are in a clump. They're all in the same little area, so that when you're concentrating your time out there, you're moving within the same area, or if there's a boat or two on your wreck or somewhere you're headed, you have another option to go somewhere else. Beginners, you're going to want to go to popular areas, okay? Now, popular area, I don't know if you can get a good look at that, Mike, but the popular area is somewhere like the Chesapeake Light Tower, where it's got tons of tanks, boats, ships, debris, structure, reef, and tons of fish overall. You know, that's what I was pointing out right here. That's these wrecks and stuff in here. Now, you know, you got tons of different options there. You know, that's a good place to start. You throw your hook, you learn your techniques, and you move on from there and go out a little further. You know, you have safety in numbers. Anything goes wrong, you know, hopefully you got a few boats around if anything does while you're learning the techniques. All right? Sometimes on land, I'll even draw a map. I'll make a bunch of coordinates, and I'll start plotting where my boats are going to be and where they're going to be. They have a lot of them online, which aren't always trustworthy. So if you do get a set of coordinates, I want you to write down 3 sets of numbers for the same wreck. Find 3 different websites for the same wreck. You'll find 3 to 4 different sets of numbers. They might be all in the same area, But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to write them all down and have them all ready to go. But what you're going to want to use is a chart plotter in your boat if you can. That's the best way to do it. If you only have a GPS or a pencil and pen to take with you to where you're going, do that. But take a good set of few numbers. Don't just take one or two. Take a good bunch of sets. Now, ghosts will happen. I want to warn you. Ghosts will happen. You'll get all the way out there. You got a full boat of guys. Everybody's completely pumped about getting there. You're pumped. You finally get all the way to that wreck, and it's ghost. You don't see it. It's not there. You go zigging and zagging, and you still don't find this wreck. Don't get your heart broken, because for all the wrecks I've found, I probably didn't find two to find one. So every time you find one, be happy that you found it and move on from there. Now, sometimes what happens, and I've talked to some of the old timers, sand will cover some of these wrecks and wash in and out across these wrecks, covering them up. But just as the sand can cover them, I was told, is that over time, maybe a good storm will come in and even blow uncover some of these wrecks. So it works both ways to check them. Tie your rigs early. This is all in the planning stages, but tie your rigs early. Tie all your rigs at your house. Lots of rigs, because you're going to be breaking off. If you're not hanging up in the wreck, you're not tog fishing. That's our rule there. You know, you want to have a bunch of different sinkers with you, 8 to 12 ounce. Now, the kind of trip you're going to be taking, plan that as well. You want to be taking a trophy trip, or you want to take a meat trip. If you're taking a meat trip, you go to a bigger wreck, common wreck. You get a bunch of lines down, a bunch of people happy, a bunch of fish on the boat, and do that type of thing. Now, if you want to do trophy fishing, you got to explain to some people that you may be sitting at a wreck for a little longer than usual, not catching them. It's hunting. You're waiting for that big one. It's a little bit different. You have to have a little patience for that. Or you might run into a brand new wreck, and there'll be tons of everything on there. But they're farms, okay? Remember I said they're farms. These wrecks are farms. All right. Look what I meant by farms. You got to take a little bit off them each time and come back. You don't kill them all at once. But I'll get to that in a minute. For your baits, here's your baits, guys. They're mostly crabs and mollusks. But you're going to want to use hermits, blue crabs, green crabs, fiddlers in the bay, clam. Cracked clam will work. I've seen them caught on squid. I've even seen guys bring out on the headboats, bring out crayfish and try to catch them. I'm not saying they did, but they tried. All right. So if you're going to use trophy fishing, make sure you don't put squid down, because it's going to bring the sharks over. All right. You know, do some sea bass fishing with that, and that's fine. But if you're trophy fishing, no squid. All right. And no sketchy people. If you're ever trophy fishing, don't bring sketchy people. Bad karma. People with GPSs that are just in it for no good or in for the wrong reasons. Just bring a good crew that's somebody you'd like to see catch that fish if you're the captain that day, or even your buddy, someone who actually appreciates it. All right. Now, I'm going to go over some anchoring, and I'm going to show you this anchor here I got out to just show you one quick tip to help every single togger. What you do when you go out there wreck fishing with these anchors, brought one from the boat today. Most times you think you'd see this anchor and you tie it to the back of this anchor. You know, you just anchor your chain right to it. But that's not what we do on PHC, and I'm sure a lot of other boats know the technique as well. See, there's a bow in this little bit of chain? Well, yeah, I put the chain, you tie it to the front of your anchor. And then you put some zip ties on the back, depending on how much waves are. You know, 2 foot waves, two things, 3 to 4 foot. You put some more on there. The stronger they are, the more waves you can take. But you leave a bow in there. So when you're ready to leave the wreck, this is one of the most important things and one of the most dangerous things about ocean wreck fishing. It even works in the bay. But you tie the zip ties on there so that when you finally go to break this wreck anchor loose, the first thing that breaks is your zip ties. Flips your anchor upside down and pulls you out upside down and gets you out. Now that's when you finally have to break the anchor. I'm going to try to teach you a couple techniques to not have to have that happen. That's in here too. And that makes it a lot easier, makes you a lot more movable on a wreck, because not many people want to move too much when you get there all the way out there. As like I said, it is pretty cold. All right, let me move on to another page here. All right, guys, here you go. You finally loaded the boat up. You got everybody you want out there. You're ready to roll. You're getting out there. When you're finally blowing up to your wreck, you've been 25 miles doing 4,500 RPM, gunning the motor loud. You want to pull that thing down about 0.3 to 0.5 miles out. You don't want to come flying in, wham, full blast, and just completely scare all these fish and just let them know you're coming. I mean, you kind of want to sneak up on them. So at about 0.5 mile, you come slowing the boat down, and you get yourself situated. Now, look, if you're smart and you got a bunch of loud people out there, pull the boat about 0.3 miles away. Let them all go outside, use the bathroom, scream and talk a little bit, do all their things away from the wreck, okay, guys? Because the worst thing you want to have happen is you finally get to the wreck, and the first thing everybody does is get out and start banging everything everywhere. You just killed your bite for the next half hour almost, because it will shut it down. I guarantee you that. These fish do here. I don't care if you're in 100 feet of water. Sound travels quicker through water. And so slow down. That's the first thing. Second thing is I want you to paint the wreck. If you've never been to this wreck before, I call it paint it. Now, what I mean by paint it, I drew you some figures here. I want you to, here's an example of painting the wreck. Here's some more I can write on here. I'll just put this on the back. I'll be fine. All right, here's what I call painting the wreck. I don't know if can you see that, Mike, on the thing? All right, say you rolled. No?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Maybe a little closer.
A little closer. All right, say you rolled up to the wreck, and your spot was here. Your spot was right there. You pulled up. You've seen nothing on your bottom screen yet. All right? And I'm going to show you in a second. I got a nice picture of what you should be looking on your bottom screen. So you're going to pull up forward like this, and you're going to look for this wreck. You're going to start doing circles around and around your point. You're going to start doing bigger and bigger circles. So you finally doing this circle, you're going to see a piece. You're going to come bring this boat around. You're finally going to hit a piece after you start making circles. When you see that piece, it's going to look something like this. You're going to see something like this.
A little closer.
All right, a little closer right there. All right, you're going to see something like this. If you're lucky, you're going to see a real big wreck, a real tall one. This is 2 fathoms, which is 12 feet. You'll see the bottom, and all of a sudden it'll shoot up. You'll see the numbers go up too. And you know that once you've got on this, as soon as you've got on this side of the wreck, and as soon as you hit one point where you've just started to see the color, as soon as you've got some good color and some good structure, what you want to do is you want to right then, and you put a point in on your man overboard. You put a point in. Now use like something for that year. I use orange X's, for example, 2018. Then as you're on top of the wreck and you see it on your screen, right when you get off the wreck and start to go back down again, put another point right there. Okay? Now don't get too excited and just throw your hook because you found it. Be stoked and high five and all that because you did do something. But then the next thing you want to do is drive again. Drive back. Put another point. Drive across. Right when you get off it again, you see it goes from 56 feet by the tower. Then all of a sudden you see it drop down to 60 feet down here. You put yourself another point. Then as you go, you do this. You come like, all right, maybe I'm starting to see something. You come in here, you see another point. Drive over the whole entire thing until you come off it again. Start adding points. Paint the wreck out, I call it. Come back around like that. Paint yourself another point. Basically, paint yourself a picture of this wreck until you have enough points. All you see is orange X's on your screen and a bunch of curves, and you know where the wreck is, okay? Now you found it. Now you know where the wreck is. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do is find out the wind and the current. I've got another picture here lined up for that to show you how to anchor. Your wind and your current. All right, say, for example, your wind and current. Current's not going to be as much of a factor in the beginning, but you're going to want to drive your boat back around. Say the wind's coming from this direction that day. Thank God the wind's coming that direction. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, if you're smart and you've done this a lot and you're driving the boat, there'll be some days the wind's blowing that way, and you try to throw the hook. No matter all you do, you can't pull that boat tight as you can to get back to that wreck. On a day it's north and south, and you put a anchor here, you get to drop your anchor and you can fish the whole wreck that day. So there's good and bad days, but we're going to go with a normal day. It's a wreck like this, and you're doing that. So you're going to want to come over to the top of this wreck. You want to pull yourself ahead of it, okay? You want to get down to no miles an hour. You want to have the stern in the boat if you can, and I always run a sample drift first. Just run a sample drift. Put it neutral. Just watch what the boat does. Hopefully the boat's going to do this number. If that's what you want it to do, hopefully. If you see it do that number, that's great. If it does this side number, then you know you're going to have to do this and work real hard. But if it's just coming like you want it to, you think it will with the wave pattern, then you drive yourself back around and you throw your hook over. Now, when you throw your hook, you're going to have to learn this by doing this, but each side of the boat will pull you one way. If you hold the rope on that side, it'll pull you that way. So you want to get yourself to hook the wreck. It takes a lot of practice, but you hook the wreck. Now, once you finally hook the wreck, you're going to you'll hook it. Yeah, we got it. You'll see your boat position still way over here. You're like, what in the heck? I got 150 foot of rope out. I'm in 90 foot of water, and I'm nowhere near the wreck. But I see stuff on the screen. Everyone instantly wants to drop rods, which is a normal thing. Try to back up just a little bit till you see a little bit of color. Okay, I'm going to pull it up one more time. This is your color. You want to see a little bit of color. When you see the color, that's fish. Okay, now you can start where there's color. And I'm going to tell you this is the greedy part. Don't be greedy. Most times your instincts as humans are going to tell you to pull yourself right where you saw your numbers and your lines. But when you first get there, pull yourself close enough till you finally saw the edge where the color is. That's where most of them hang out. It's not on top of the wreck. It's next to it or in the holes. But you want to pull yourself to right about here and get the crew out there starting. Sometimes the current will be washing them right back at the wreck, or you'll be right on top of it still. You get a few lines here, get a few sample casts if they're not there, but watch what happens. You want everybody calling their bites out, letting you know what's going on. Spread your crew out. All right? And then as you get where that spot out or feeling a little more greedy, you back your anchor up. You take in, we only took in 10 feet the other day, and on my machine, we covered 50 foot of ground. It's because of the angle. You got a huge angle like that. You pull in 10 feet, you've just covered a lot of ground because of that angle. It's the triangle theory. Either way, bottom line is you'll be on the wreck a lot better and go, here we go, guys, and you'll be dropping all over the structure. Now, I wrote some notes, but I could just keep going and tell you this. Once you're on the wreck, let me get the notes out. Once you're on the wreck, let's see here. It's going to take me half a second. Release them back. Yeah, no, don't catch them all. Prospect cast. There you go. Okay, here we go. I'm right on target. All right, I told you about the prospect cast. Once you've got to that spot where you've already set the anchor for a little while and decided we're going to fish here and tightened it, where you're going to give it a go, get everybody to drop down, try some spots, but memorize where they're plopping their lines and see the same thing. If you're the fisherman, I'll give you some fisherman tips. Watch where your buddies shoot, because if they put it in a certain spot, that could be where the wreck is directed. Follow the anchor line is a good way to guess. All right, so you want to go ahead and you want to prospect cast. Eventually, as you move back, somebody's going to find a spot, and they're going to start catching them. As soon as they get one in the boat, if they can, and it's your buddy, only if it's your buddy, you run to his spot, and you throw it in there, and you get yourself a tog right out of there, because that's where it is. They're pretty red hot. And if you're on a charter, you got to stay where you're at or try to get on it on the next drift or next go. Now, don't catch them all. I was trying to tell you all about it's a farm. Once you get there, you're a certain amount of togs per wreck. You want to move on to another wreck so you don't clean it out, because it's like a party. You know, you walk into a bar, there's nobody there, you're going to leave. There's a few people there. If there's something going on, you might hang out. So remember that when you're fishing these wrecks, not to clean them out. It's just you want to move around, and that's how you can keep their fish being there. It's just like anything else, any resource. Slowly tighten, which I was telling you, using the motor. You cut your motor back on. I have the motor off on the anchor, but you have your motor back on, and you slowly walk your anchor down. Sometimes on a slack tide, you can get some guys and wrestle the anchor real easy, but you want to wrestle back almost to your straight up and down, and you've gotten to your greediest point. You know, you've worked really hard on that anchor. Now, that just showed you how much more time you can put out there fishing besides just one shot where there's nothing biting here and go. Now, for another example, say, for example, you've already I'm going to show you the chart again. You've already fished this wreck, and you've already fished these spots, and you've got a whole bunch of marks already right here. Well, then you go ahead and pull that anchor, and you can drop it right. You can drop it right here. Try to hook a piece here, float by to there, bring yourself back, and work the stern of the ship, or the bow of the ship, for that example. All right. Now, let's see, here we go. Pulling the anchor, you reposition, that's the best thing to do, and your tides. Now, another thing you can remember, is this for the guy fishing on the boat, is a really good tip, is when you throw your line out, eventually you watch your line streak off to the right, that's the current. If you can think where you want to be on the wreck and add the current to it when you cast, you put a little line over to the right or something like that, and you'll be right where you want to be. It's a little technique, if you know what I mean. I'm talking about it. The smallest fish taste the best, by the way, if you're ever releasing your side big ones or release citations, try to drive, if you're drifting that day, make sure to try to drive back to the wreck and let them go instead of the middle of nowhere, and you'll have a better chance of seeing them again. Smallest fish taste the best. I got to admit that anything 16 to 20 inches are the most delicious. Panko, peanut oil, hoisin tog. All right, now here's some things. Let me see. Wait. I got the fishing part. All right, now I'm going to do the fishing part of it. I just wanted to tell y'all one thing that's really important is when you finally get the angler on there. Oh, there it is. Here we go. Etiquette. It's all on here too, guys. All right, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought here. All right, try to avoid these things if you can. Don't stay on an anchor if the waves are picking up to 2 to 3 feet. When they start to pick up at 2 to 3 feet, you want to get off your anchor, okay? Now, if you see the waves and the wind pick up with a really good blow, get off. I don't care what the bite's going on, and you're just one more drop. Get off that anchor as fast as possible. It's not the best conditions to be in on an anchor. If not, the worst, you're going to lose an anchor. But we've seen and had other boats that have sunk, or you're trying to pull yourself in, damn it, hurt crew members. And almost sunk boats, vessels. So just remember I said that. If you see weather, get out of there. Get your anchor off. Try to bring a new wreck each time you go, you know? Have a few spots to fish. You know what I mean? If you ride all the way out there and somebody's on your wreck, unless it's a huge wreck, over 100 feet, long, you might want to just have a few in that area. But if it's a big wreck, it's big enough and it's cool, just roll up to them and be quiet. The worst thing to do is roll up on them on the wreck and then start banging your anchor down and everybody's taking a leak at them. And guys, have a little respect. No matter what you do, most times you roll out in the middle of nowhere, no one's really going to be that nice when you sit right next to them doing those types of things. This is how it goes. Let's see, here we go. Try not to anchor on a 40-foot chunk with another boat. If you have a little small chunk, that's definitely a no-no. If it's a tiny little baby chunk, you're not going to get on it that day with them. First come, first serve, like anywhere else. It's not the rule, but if it's something you like to follow, if there's a boat already on there, and you're at the triangle, for example, you have another bunch of boats you can go on and let them get off, and they go back and get them. I mean, it's one of those things. It's your call, but I don't make any rules or any of that. So it's just one of those things you'll see while you're out there if you're a beginner to watch out for. There are boats that won't be appreciative of you trying to check out what they got packed in their lunchbox, or you're trying to trade chips boat to boat. Here's some tips. Here's some really good tips. Now, this is the main thing I want to stress. When you're a fisherman out there, and even the charters I'm on, I tell them to yank and crank. When I tell them to yank and crank, it's real important that most times people go fishing, or if they see a bobber bounce, the first instinct is to go yank and pull that, set that hook. Bass fishermen, I love going fishing with tog for bass fishermen first, and they just do that complete body whip. Well, for tog fishing, you want to have it's called a yank and crank. You're holding your rod. I think I'm a little low, Mike. I'm fine. That's fine.
Okay.
No, that's cool. You're holding the rod like this, and as soon as you're getting a bite, you're a little bit lower by your waist, obviously. You ain't got my waist in there. Let me get down on my waist a little. All right, guys. Sorry about that. Anyway, so you're fishing this rod, right? And you've got it in your hand. You're waiting for a tog bite. You feel the first couple strikes. If it's cold and it's early in the year, let them eat it. They might not just run with it, but if they run with it, you know what to do is yank and crank. But the first couple bites, they're going to just give it a good couple chomps and eat the legs of that crab, And then eventually, they're going to get a good strike on that thing. They're going to get a really, really, really good strike on that thing. And when they do, you're going to want to lift up on that rod, right? When you lift up on the rod, most people come back down to see if they have anything. You cannot do that with tautog. This is a wreck. They're instinctive. They're trying to get back in their hole, right back in it like an eel. So what you want to do as soon as you hit them, now remember this too, you don't want to be out here, and you don't want to be out here with your rod. You don't want to just hold your rod out. When you finally feel the bite happen, you reel all the way down towards the water, and that way it gives you the most of a pendulum on your pull. You can pull this far instead of being able to pull this far. That's all the whip you get. So if you're down here and you feel that bite, that last bite, when he makes his move, you finally set that hook, you reel him, you have it up here, you reel back down to the fish. Yank and crank. That way he's out of the wreck for the first 5 feet. I don't care if it's one of the biggest, baddest ones. Sometimes they'll pull you, sometimes they won't, but they're going to try to pull you back in. For that first few seconds, it's most important that you've got them 5 to 10 feet as much as you can out of that wreck on the first initial go. That way they're going to go use all that energy and expend it right there, and then you start the fight. As they start to lose their swim bladder, it gets a little bit easier. But remember, as soon as they get to the surface, already be calling for the net, because these togs fight like no other fish. The bend on these poles, pound for pound, is up there with the triggerfish, up there with the spadefish. I mean, it's a great fight. And you want to get that fish you call for the net. That's what you always do. You call for the net, you get that thing a little closer, and then once you see that thing be ready for it, loosen your drag even. When you have that thing on the bottom, you do want to have your drag tight almost all the way. But when you get that fish to the surface, you want to loosen that drag just a little bit. There's nowhere else he can go. He's not going to get back in the wreck, but he's going to make his last move right there at the boat. I've seen a lot of fish lost right there for people just having a great time doing that yanking and cranking motion, which is not even needed. You just reel them up and then be ready for that last move. And when he makes it, let him finish it, bring him up, throw that sucker in the net, and high five. Now, I'm going to go over just a little bit of the tackle. I did skip the tackle. I drew up a rig for you guys to look at. I skipped over that. There it is right here. There it is. Here's the rig. Now, the rig you want to use and the tackle and the rods and stuff. Now, listen, guys. I'm not sponsored by anybody, man, so I'm not going to speak and say this is the best ever, because when it comes down to it, It's really more about effort. It's really about going. It's really about caring. I mean, I've seen guys break out some really, really nice stuff, you know. I've seen guys break out some where's the snake skin? I have it written down even. All right, well, here we go. I have a couple more things I needed to tell you. There's the rig. So let me show you the rig. All right. This is the rig right here. You're going to want to use an 8 to 12 ounce sinker. Now, if you're in 50 to 60 feet, you're going to want to use 8 ounce. Now, listen, here's how it works. These are expensive. But here's how it ends up working. You use the cheapest, the smallest you can get away with, because you will be breaking a lot of sinkers off. One of the main things of tog fishing I'll be teaching, and I teach on my boat, is once you get hung in the wreck, here's the rig. It's a 3-inch, 2 foot to here. We got a barrel swivel. We got a nice hook. The size varies depending on what size piece of bait you have. And you got a 4-inch here, but it's here. So, guys, give me 1 second to get to my notes here. Hey guys, we're back, man. We got Mike's camera rolling this time. We picked up a few of the guys who were watching. I hope y'all stick around or find the feed if y'all want to ask the questions if y'all had any. We're gonna do the conclusion one more time because it got a little scratchy there before. My closing message to y'all, man, was really that I spend hours, and I mean hours and days, on the boat putting in new numbers. I mean, I got this bag of books, this book of numbers. I sit there and go through with all these different pages of coordinates and stuff, just trying to triangulate a new spot or a different area to go fish, or just try something different to get away from the crowd and maybe find that fish that's out there we're all looking for when it comes to the big one.
Sound is good now.
All right. Well, you got 11 over there. Here's what it comes down to, man, is that after years of targeting these fish, man, I happen to love them like you guys do. They're really tasty. They're really fun fish to catch. They pound for pound fight. And actually, you know, I put a lot of hours into preparing this for you. I hope you enjoyed it. I wanted to thank you for watching it, and thank the Mike Avery, and I wanted to thank Virginia Saltwater Sports Fishing Association for having me here. And we're going to do a little bit of Q&A. If anybody's left on here or figured out we switched over because the sound was bad.
And I want you to run over the rigs again one more time.
Anyone want to see the jigs again?
The rigs for your normal rig that you use.
Yeah, I'll do the normal rig again.
And your baits and how you hook them.
This is all over. There you go.
What kind of hook do you like the best?
You know, man, when it comes down to if I could just have one hook out of one pack and I didn't have to pay it, it would be a Yamagatsu or one of them super sweet, ultra fine, laser sharp, expensive Mac Daddy hooks. But when it comes down to where I like to get my hooks, I like to get my hooks from Ocean East, and I like to get them from Princess Anne Tackle, where they got those big packs of the right size, where you're going to burn a lot of tackle.
You like about a 6/0 maybe?
Yeah, I do the 6. I do the 5s. I like the 4s. I do the 6s on bigger stuff. It depends on which wreck I'm going to and which fish I'm targeting. If I'm doing for the trophy, you better have a bigger hook.
Right.
You know, and I've seen really tiny hooks catch some of the giantest fish too. So as long as you know the strength of your hook and you trust its sharpness, rig your bait where you can get that hook presented. As long as it gets through that crab, you'll be happy. It's froze or what? I mean, is it gone?
It's good.
Okay, cool.
Well,
here's
play.
the
You gotta hit play.
Here's the rig, guys. And what we like to use is an 8 to 12 ounce. If you're out there in 50 to 60 foot of water, I'd use an 8 ounce. The deeper you go, up to 100 feet, you want to use a 10 to 12 ounce. Now, if you're made of money, just go ahead and throw out 12 ounces all day long because you just want to get straight down anyway. But most people, they want to use what's economical, so you want to use what will hold. And in each current situation, as the moon rises and draws, it draws this current faster where you need an 8 to 12 ounce to get you to hold. You want to have about a 3-inch space from there to there. You want to run a double overhand's fine, or you can tie it overhand there. You want about 4 inches there. That way your bait can still fall down and look almost natural, because a crab's not going to be always floating in the air when it goes by a fish. It might actually be on the bottom like a crab usually is. So you want to have another 2 foot or 3 foot going to your leader. And most times with your braided right here, you'll break off and you'll still get your swivel back. If you have 3 foot, it's because you're going to run a double drop rig, and you can run a double drop rig just as well. And you can run, squid on top for a sea bass, but when you're togging, you're just going with crab majority of the time, whichever one it is. These Wolfpack jigs I got here, they're really hot. They work really well. I like them. I like the ones that are orange colored with the mustard on them a little bit. And I don't know, guys. I don't know how much of that y'all heard. I wish I knew how much of y'all heard. You know, if I had to do it again another time, I would record it for Mike if I had to get up on YouTube. You guys want to do a little Q&A? Any questions?
Let's wrap up. I think I don't really have too many questions.
You got 18, 19 people?
Let's,
you got 20 people.
So, look, Bill, let me tell me how to get a hold of you, how to book you as a charter.
Oh, okay.
Give us your phone number.
I appreciate
your
that.
Facebook page. Tell us how the customers can book you.
Well, if you want to get a hold of Playin Hookey Charters, you look us up on Facebook or you look up Bill Pappas Jr. There's a Playin Hookey Charters.com. The best way to do it is usually shoot me a message or shoot me a text at area code 757-619-3530. There's a good question from Dylan. We'll get that in 2 seconds. And you can find me on the Messenger. And all you got to do really is just get a deposit in, pick a day out, get a group, get a deposit in. You'll have up to 48 hours to cancel for any reason. But you pick your day out, you get a deposit in, and you hold that day. And you'll be good to go. So let me answer.
Where do you launch out of?
I come out of Rudy Inlet.
Okay.
Hey, Craig, how's it going, buddy? Hey, Scott. Dylan, your question was what's the rod size? You know, when it comes to the rod sizes, I'll be honest with you, man. I'll tell you a good story about that. I've used medium heavy and I've used some all right stuff, but I've been to a wreck one year when I was trying to chase Ken Neal, the state leader, and I literally got pulled in by one of the biggest couple togs a couple times in a row, and I told myself the next day I was bringing a tuna stick out there, and I actually did. I brought a TLD 25 because I overdid it, but it's just the way it felt that day, because the way that fish fought and the way he pulled when he first bit to get him out of the wreck was something extraordinary. And the rod itself that I had that day couldn't stop him. So I wouldn't say going too heavy is a bad thing. Now, Killsong makes some real nice rods, and these guys have some really, really strong rods that bend a lot. But that first few seconds is the most important to get him out of that wreck, and you have a strong rod to get it going. Any other questions? We have some time for some questions, Mike.
Yeah, if anyone has any. Let's see what they got.
Let's go on the other.
We're
There you go.
gonna wrap up, guys. So if anyone has any questions, just
Fingers in the way.
let us know. Otherwise,
They got some questions. You guys have any questions on the any of the other stuff, guys? We can answer them here. We got all the secret golden numbers, golden spots we're giving away tonight.
yeah.
Now, when it comes to these spots and these techniques and some of these things I've went over, there'll be some that'll be upset. I gave some of the things out without people having to put in the hard work to get them. But it really does come down to this retention. You're not going to really remember everything I said, and you're not going to take all these things out there and do them at once. It's going to take practice. It's going to take going.
How far out from Rudy?
From Rudy, I'll take the boat, up to 45 miles. You want to go about 30 miles. You can get to the triangles. You can go 25. You can catch them in there. I've seen nice ones caught at the tower over the years. There's some real good citation size in there, too. There's people sink their own boats, and those end up being good.
I will say, if you're a brand new guy just starting out, right, I would suggest you go to the VMRC homepage, find the Artificial Reef site, and on there, believe it or not, the numbers on the VMRC page are pretty dang accurate. So you can print you out some numbers. You get the tower reef, you get the triangle reef, and the numbers on there are almost all dead on.
Really?
Yeah. So if you don't have any numbers that are accurate and you're going out for the first time, print those out and go out and they're accurate. I mean, it's a public resource that's supposed to be known to everyone because they're funded by the state for those artificial reefs to be out there. So the bigger tog are on the unknown wrecks that nobody knows about. So you want to find those. But
that's the truth.
If you're just starting out and you don't have numbers, go to the VMRC homepage, the Virginia Marine Resource Commission page, and look up artificial reef, and there's some good numbers on there. So just a little tip.
I'll tell you this, too. Always, while you're out there, whether you're trolling, whether you're doing anything you're doing, always have your eyes on your machine, offshore, inshore. The actual Virginia State Leader last year was caught on a wreck that happened to find that wreck out there trolling. It was 3 or 4 years ago. We were trolling for mahi and tuna when they came in near the triangle, and we happened to be trolling back and forth and found a little scratch on the screen we happened to come back to last year and gave it a hook with our anchor, and sure enough, it was there. Now, we've been back since we call that place Tokyo. The reason we call that place Tokyo is because Togzilla lives there.
And we pulled him out of there last year. He just hasn't been back yet this year. But there's some spots out there, guys. It just takes a little bit of time. I mean, you don't always have to have, where's he at, where's his boat, I'm going to where they're at to go catch him, guys. It just takes having that preparation and planning. Lots of rigs, lots of sinkers. And
what about your leader size?
I go with the leader. I go 40 to 60 pound, depending on where I'm at. And I'll use mono. You can use fluorocarbon for a stiffer go. I mean, there's, it depends on what you're targeting. You're meat fishing, you can be a little looser. You're doing the tournament trophy fishing, and you want to have your A game out there. You want to have all your rigs pre-tied. You don't want to lose any bottom time, And sometimes, I'll tell you another two things are real important about togging. I fished with two different captains, Kevin Selden and Kevin Farley out of Lynn Haven Inlet for a lot of years. Even Fred and Skip up there at the Rudy I fished with a lot too. But there's all the different techniques between the captains. One captain would sit on a wreck, and we would not catch too many. But over time, we'd stay there long enough or move around a little bit, and they would finally bite or we'd catch some fish. I had another captain. He was a little more impatient. You get to a wreck, you drop down, you get in a couple bites, you stay. You get no bites, you leave. You go to another place. So you remember, you put your time in on each wreck. You try to play your conditions. Hopefully, they haven't been overfished too hard, or you haven't picked the one that's bad. But when you do get to the one, like I was telling Mike, when you finally find that one that nobody's been to, out of all the ghosts you've been to, and you find that one that hasn't anybody been to in a little at a time, and it's covered in fish, it's a beautiful thing because you can just have a great time. You can bring your family out there. You can bring charters. You just have a good time. But remember, like I said, it's a farm. Just take a couple off the wreck each time, move on to another one, catch some there, and then that way you can come back and always keep moving around and catching yourself fish. All right? Any other questions? We still got a lot of people up there looking. Anyone got any questions for you? We got any answers?
Well, not getting any. So we've been at it a while. So
cool.
I think we should just wrap it up, and maybe we'll see Bill again. We'll contact Bill for. When the mahi show up, maybe we'll get him to give some of his mahi secrets. He loves his immature mahi. And
sure do.
But Bill, I want to thank you for giving the presentation for VSSA, and look forward to what did I say? Fish care for throwback.
Shane said it was real good, man.
So, anyways,
sweet.
Thanks, Bill. And this is Virginia Saltwater Sport Fishing Association signing off.